Yes, can you hear me and can you hear Council Chambers?
Can you hear us?
You can't hear us?
Can you hear us?
No, we can.
I can hear you and I can hear Ray.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
All right. It is 7 p.m. on Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024. And I now call to order the 2148th regular meeting of the City of College Place City Council. Will the clerk please take roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Jessup,
Present.
Councilmember Cleveland,
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza, Councilmember Peterson,
Present.
Councilmember Williams,
Present.
Councilmember Sherman,
Present.
Councilmember Boyle. Present. We do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Will you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance. All right, thank you. It's time for public comment. Emmy, did anyone submit a written comment in advance or request to speak via telephone or virtually?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If anyone in attendance would like to speak during public comment time, please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'm going to move on then. Thank you. It's moving on to consent agenda, which consists of tonight's agenda, October 22nd, 2024. The approving of council minutes from September 24th, 2024. Youth Advisory Commission appointments, who are, let's see, Amelia Ferraro, Lydia Hayden, and Charlie Amick were the ones that submitted the applications, correct, Emmy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You can, okay. All three are appointed, just for the record. I'm excited. We got 3 applications for the youth advisories, so that was awesome. Are there any items any council member would like removed from the consent agenda this time? If not, can I have a motion?
Second.
Okay, first was Councilmember Cleveland. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Councilmember Williams, can you redo your vote? We weren't sure we heard you.
I not opposed. I in favor. I.
In favor, aye. Okay. All right, thank you. All right, it's unanimous. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. There are 4 presentations on the agenda tonight. First, I'm going to read the College Place Arbor Day Proclamation. Whereas Arbor Day was established in 1872 by J. Sterling Morton of Nebraska as a day set aside to plant trees, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce erosion by wind and water, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas the addition of trees to the landscape has been shown to stimulate economic development. And whereas the City of College Place recognizes that trees and parks are important to enhance the beauty of our city and actively encourage the planting and care of trees throughout the city. And now, therefore, I, Norma L. Hernandez, Mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, do hereby proclaim October 22nd, 2024, College Place Arbor Day. I do appeal to residents of College Place to celebrate Arbor Day. I further encourage residents to plant a tree and care for the trees in College Place for the well-being of this and future generations. Given under my hand and seal as Mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, the 22nd day of October, 2024. Oh, I read that so royally. All right, next I'm going to read the Veterans Day Proclamation. Whereas it has been our custom to commemorate November 11th, the anniversary of the ending of World War I, by paying tribute to the heroes of that tragic struggle and by rededicating ourselves to the cause of peace. And whereas America has been involved in other military conflicts, which has added millions of veterans to the honor rolls of this nation. And whereas the service members who have served and are currently serving in the armed forces of the United States of America have made major contributions towards the preservation of this nation and her people. And whereas the services performed by 3 million brave Americans have demonstrated the deepest sense of service and love to the country. And whereas the nation and the free world are eternally grateful for the contributions of all American veterans to advancing the cause of an honorable world peace. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Norma L. Hernandez, Mayor of the City of College Place, Washington, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2024 as Veterans Day. And I urge all residents to attend the Walla Walla Valley Veterans Day Parade held at 11:11 a.m. in downtown Walla Walla, dated this 22nd day of October, 2024. All right. Those parades are a lot of fun. I don't know if y'all have been to them, but they're really a lot of fun. Okay, let's see. Now returning to us is Mr. Rakai with our next round of strategic planning. As these conversations are by nature thought-provoking and exciting, sometimes when you think about it, I would encourage you all to do your best to stay on track while we hone in on the vision, mission, priorities, and goal setting. All right? All right, Zach, welcome.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Thought-provoking and exciting. That's exciting for me as well. So appreciate that. I get a little feedback there. Welcome again. I haven't seen you all since October 1st, and we had a lot of work completed that evening. We had a little bit of homework if you wanted to take a chance to look at mission and vision statements. And this evening, we'd like to see what we can hone in for both of those. Review the priorities that we had secured and approved in general. Just want to reaffirm those and then see if we can get to some goal setting this evening as well. I know that there's a budget review this evening and some other items after this, so we don't want to keep everyone too late. So just a reminder of why we are here. Obviously, we're here to create the vibrant future for College Place, identify those key priorities and goals, create that lasting legacy and preserve and sustain this beautiful community. We've already been through a lot of the purpose of strategic planning a couple times with this group. So I want to just jump right in to the vision statement. So we talked a little bit about what is a vision statement in our last meeting on the 1st, being a definition of the future. It's an aspirational, big picture, inspirational statement to inspire action and involvement. But it's also what makes a good one. It's clear and simple, future-based. It's easy to explain. It doesn't necessarily describe the purpose of your organization, but it just answers that question, what does success look like? And I think we had that conversation last time we were here, that this is something where you're at the Veterans Day Parade and a resident comes up and, hey, what's the vision for College Place in the next 10 years? We looked at the previous vision statement, which was pretty long. You want to be able to answer that question pretty quickly and have a pretty concise statement as well. So yeah, we went through an exercise where we talked a little bit about our purpose as an organization. Why do we exist? Who are our clients or customers? You know, do we have a geographic boundary? What do we do? What kind of work or services do we provide, and what we don't do? And then we reviewed the current vision statement out of the 2017 strategic plan. I'm not going to reread that, but it is up on the slide. We talked about it last time. And went through all of just the specificities of it, the length, everything like that. So we did have a little bit of homework if anyone wanted to come up with a simpler vision statement. We talked about having it be, short. It deals obviously with the future tense, but it's also you're speaking as if you're 10 years ahead of the future, 5 years ahead of the future, where College Place is this place, not College Place will be. You want to look at it as an aspirational end product talked about incorporating some of the priorities that we talked about as well. And coming up with something a little bit more concise. So I don't know, just a straw poll of the council, if anyone had a chance to come up with some items or provide anything there. I know it's been pretty busy. Okay, it looks like Councilmember Jessup's got some there as well. Was that not with you? No, that's okay. I took the liberty as well to do some homework for College Place, to come up with a simpler vision statement and future based on what we talked about. So we can build off of that. We can talk a little bit about some of the thoughts we've had since the first and go from there. So just a sample one we can start out with. College Place thrives as a vibrant, which I'll need to correct that language. No, it's okay. I'm gonna back up. I have it written down here as well. There we are. College Place thrives as a vibrant, connected community with a flourishing downtown, diverse housing and robust commercial growth. Through strategic financial stewardship, effective collaboration, and a strong sense of safety and community, residents enjoy a walkable city rich in events, engagement, and mutual respect.
Zoom, online, you're not seeing the slides?
Maybe she's just got,
Whoa.
I'm not seeing the slides. Are Ree or Melody? You are?
I'm seeing them.
All right, maybe I'll figure myself out. On you go.
Okay.
Check
Councilmember,
view options.
Councilmember Peterson?
This is not included.
Sorry, what's your question?
This is not included in our packet?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, this. Yeah,
There were notes that do have the sample one in there.
But
I provided to Mike last week.
correct. The PowerPoint is not in our
PowerPoint is not in
documents.
there.
okay.
So any initial thoughts? Does this capture the priorities? Is it short enough? We talked a lot about, various different things with regard to commercial growth and housing. Obviously the events and engagement with the community was a priority as well. Any initial thoughts on this one?
Thoughts from council members? Councilmember Cleveland?
It seems pretty nice, although I think that should be College Place thrives as opposed to
Yeah.
thrives is.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
certainly correct that.
Councilmember Peterson?
Councilmember Williams had a great example at our last meeting. Is that part of the mission or was that part of the vision?
I believe
Statement,
that was priorities.
Yes,
that was what?
Priorities.
Okay, priorities as related to what?
As to fulfill the mission and vision. So
Oh,
it's the
okay.
next level down.
Got it.
and
Okay,
we'll go through those in a few slides too. Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's all good.
Thank you.
You bet.
I like it. I think it hits all the points we were talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this covers everything. I think perhaps we could shorten it by, deciding how things combine, but I'm not sure that we need to.
It's a third what it was. So-
Well, and remember when we first introduced this project and this process to strive for 80%, can we get 80% of an idea fleshed out? Judging by the pace with which we will do goal setting this evening, we may be coming back in November and then one more time to look at the final plan and have those discussions as well. So we can certainly let this revised vision statement marinate a little bit and see how it coincides with the plan. And if we go through goal setting and prioritization, that might change some things as well, but we're more than happy to move forward on that.
This is total wordsmithing and I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's why we're here.
I usually hate doing that. But I think the first line, what College Place thrives. College Place thrives is or as a vibrant. Maybe College Place is a thriving, vibrant community. It sounds less, yeah, robotic. It seems to just kind of flow a little better, but that's just my,
We could just drop the thrives and say College Place is a vibrant connected community.
yeah. Councilmember Cleveland said perhaps we can just drop the word thrives, and College Place is a vibrant connected community, correct?
I have a quick comment. So since the vision statement is an aspirational statement of looking in the future, I would say to be a vibrant, connected community. So just scratching the College Place thrives as a vibrant community, just to be a vibrant community, and then we continue with the rest because we're casting out the net into the future of what we want to be. So that's my thought.
So you're saying this College Place is a vibrant community?
Vision statement to be a vibrant, connected community with a flourishing downtown, so on and so forth. Because it's a city, it's our vision for the city already. So I'm just scratching the College Place thrives as a vibrant community, just to be. That's our vision, to be a vibrant community, flourishing downtown, diverse housing, robust commercial growth,
I agree. I
so
like
on and
that.
so forth.
But the word be means you're going to. And the vision statement is as if we are there on that date.
No.
Is that what he
The
said?
vision is what we strive to become.
Mhm.
And so to be is what we are. I mean, that truly is the purpose.
And it can be, I think the original way was you can have it as this is something that's already achieved. That this is that castle in the distance, the rainbow on the horizon, that you're already there. If council chooses to have a to be statement that's something that you're working towards, then that's totally fine as well. It's your vision statement.
Ms. Colwell.
I have one suggestion, even though this is your guys' cup of tea, to put in after residents and visitors. And then got that? So residents and visitors enjoy. I know that makes it longer, but I kind of like that we attract a lot of visitors. And then the first A in the second sentence, I don't think should be there. That was it. Thanks.
When you're strong sense of safety, that A.
That A.
Councilmember Jessup.
May I throw a wrench in and make a one sentence vision statement?
Yes.
I mean, please rip it apart as well, but by 2029, College Place will be a safe, interconnected, and engaging community, blending small town charm with sustained growth and infrastructural development.
Okay, let me just quickly ask the council. So do we want to do the vision statement as we have now achieved it as was originally intended, or do we want to do this is what we want to achieve?
I believe if I understand correctly, vision, it's what we are striving to be. If that's my, that's my
I've
current
always
understanding.
understood
Right.
vision to be as well.
And the vision is what we are in the future, what we already are in the future. But Councilmember Cleveland?
I was gonna comment that we are a lot of these things already. We have, a strong sense of community. We are safe. And so I kind of like having it in the present tense, even though it continues to be aspirational, because it also talks to the strengths we already do have. If we say we will be, it almost implies that we're not in a lot of ways, but that's just kind of my two thoughts on it.
With that suggestion, may I say, instead of saying will be a, just say the word is?
Feedback?
Feedback from the group, yeah.
Did you have your hand up again or just not taken down?
Sorry, I didn't take it down.
I have a comment, Mayor Hernandez. So,
Mr. Rickard?
thank you. The second sentence seems a little wordy to me, and I think you could accomplish the same thing by eliminating a few words. For instance, if you said through stewardship, collaboration, stewardship, collaboration, safety and community, residents have a walkable, and continue it out. But I just don't know that you need to have strategic financial stewardship. That seems like a lot. You could just say through stewardship, effective collaboration, and a strong sense of safety and community, residents enjoy a walkable city, rich in events, engagement, and mutual respect.
So that'd be to remove strategic, financial, and effective.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm also gonna just suggest gently that diverse housing isn't super exciting, and the vision statement is supposed to be exciting. You're not like, there's so much diverse housing in College Place, right? I mean, that's obviously a goal, but as for like the vision, it wouldn't be one of the top 5 things that you would describe College Place as.
This is Councilmember Williams.
Sorry, I'm
Responded,
just trying to do research here on what's a good vision, how to write a vision statement.
a comment on our reactions to comments from staff. I really like the Ree's comment about adding in visitors, because I think that is something that we both do and want to continue doing. I also like John's crossing out a lot of the adjectives. And I didn't hear exactly who was talking about diverse housing, and I'm not sure entirely what diverse housing means, but I think for many, many people, affordable housing would be incredibly exciting. So although affordable housing has sort of a that's for poor people kind of vibe, but at this point, even middle class people can't afford housing. So I don't know if there's a better word than affordable.
How about just available?
Available, yeah, that'd be nice. Because our inventory is so low.
That's really
I
aspirational.
don't think it's very aspirational.
I'm just to give you some feedback on the comments that people made.
Thank you.
I would even move the walkable city and rich in events up to the first sentence, because I think it just is more cohesive up there rather than having it disjointed towards the end. If we're going to remove the housing and we just move those two up to the first sentence, I think they would just flow better.
It leads a little stronger. It leads a little stronger too. Like College Place is a vibrant, walkable city, rich in events, engagement, and mutual respect. That comes off as pretty strong.
Zach, do you or Mr. Radkai, sorry, do you
Okay.
do you know if vision statements for municipalities, do they usually talk about the financial situation? I'm just wondering why that was even in there in the first place.
It all depends on, it's city by city. So there could be a lot of, we want to be strong. I don't want to say strategically financial stewardship, because we talked about that, but we want to be proper stewards of the public dollar. So a lot of people would want to call that out as well. So I've seen it 50-50 about. So it's all up to y'all.
Thank you. I was just wondering why.
bet.
Okay. Any other thoughts, feedback, suggestions?
I can
I
also take,
Sorry. Councilmember Williams, I like the moving the walkable, rich in events, engagement up to the first sentence because I think that's a great lead in. Because so much of what we focus on is and needs to be housing, I hate to take it out completely. So I think that's a second sentence that talks about housing and stewardship and the things that aren't maybe quite as exciting, but still an important part of our vision. I would like to see that.
But is that part of the vision or is that part of the priorities that are the how we get to the vision? Because isn't the vision supposed to be like this beautiful snapshot picture of our city? And then the priorities and all of those under it are the how we create that picture.
Mhm.
And I feel like the financial stewardship and the housing and all of those pieces, those are the how, those are our priorities of how we get there. But the vision statement should be painting the picture of who we're going to become and what that looks like you're describing a picture.
Mhm.
From an outside perspective, I would also say this is a beautiful city. It's got tree-lined streets. It's well lit. I mean, there's things, within the actual picture of outside the historic properties and the trees. I'm just saying.
Councilmember Williams?
Maybe housing isn't the right word, but I think a huge part of the vision that I've been working towards is a place where we're not like a lot of small towns where all of our high school students have to leave to get jobs or to find a place to live. And it's a beautiful little town that's preserved for the people who got here first. So, I'm not sure exactly how to articulate that in a vision statement, but the concept that people who grew up here, who are growing up here right now, will be able to start a business, get a job, find a place to live, all in College Place.
Well, I think if I jump in, and I'm not supposed to wordsmith, but I think if we talk a little bit about, not having those specifics, housing, financial stewardship are the means to that end. Could housing be, housing is where you live. So could we speak to something towards, maybe it's not housing, but that residents remain here or long-term living,
Something maybe people call home or I don't know. I'm just trying to think of those things. Mr. Ricker? Oh, sorry, Councilmember Williams.
Ms. Williams,
Sorry, it's hard
kinda-
to tell if I'm.
Ms. Williams' comments, kind of about, the generations before us and generations after us. I mean, that's not exactly what she said, but that made me think about why do we need to focus on housing? We don't need to say the word housing if we focus on the fact that the next generation is going to be here. Obviously, if they're still here, that means they have a place to live. So, I mean, we don't have to focus on the housing aspect of it, but the fact that the next generation has, they're raising their families here, they have jobs here. And so we don't, obviously they have a house because they're living here. So it's not.
When we talk
I
about
like that.
robust growth, I mean, if we have robust growth, clearly there's a place for everybody. There's, I mean, well,
But yeah.
Councilmember Williams?
Sorry, I like the idea of including something about next generations or all generations or future for younger people, something like that. I mean, I'm fine with not having housing in there, but I do think I like John's way of saying, we're looking at all generations and including the next generation.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking around the generational community, something like that.
All generations or something. Okay, any other thoughts, feedback, Councilmember Cleveland?
I kind of liked Norma's comment, trying to say that it was that College Place is a great place to live or call home. I feel like that captures. I feel that's a little more engaging than it's a generationally great place to live kind of thing. There was one sort of statement I remember from some workshop ages ago that said that College Place is a great place to like live and do business and like call home or something like that.
Live, work.
Oh yeah, live, work and call home or something like that. And so I think that captures at least a little bit of that. How we want to integrate that, I'm not sure, but I guess we'll see what we get back.
I can certainly work with a lot of this as well and get it to Mike over for a review from this body.
Anything else? Councilmember Cleveland?
One final thought is I really appreciate the staff being willing and able to share kind of their thoughts on this. Because, you know, they're part of the city too. They make a lot of stuff run. And I'm really glad that we have a council where we're open to that as opposed to, no, you shut up and do your work kind of stuff. So I just want to say I really value the staff's input.
For allowing our voices to be heard occasionally.
Absolutely. You all are
Okay.
making the magic happen, right? Anything else? All right, I think we're done there.
All right, we can go pick apart a mission statement now and see. So we didn't get a whole heck of a lot of work done last time with mission statement, I think just from getting our priorities in place and everything. But whereas you look at the vision statement being that aspirational end result, the mission statement is the what, why, and how for whom statement about your agency. It states how and why your agency exists. Once again, it's a short statement, a focus statement. Shouldn't have any jargon. In government, we love acronyms. It should be authentic, conveys a strong sense of purpose, specific, and aligns with your vision, your priorities. But it also doesn't say how to do something. So on this one, let me see where we have here. So a typical formula we have for a mission statement is we do blank for blank because of blank. One example provided, and if there's other examples of a mission statement that came across from council since our last meeting, let's have them. But, you know, not referencing specifically College Place, but College Place is building a safe, affordable, and connected community where everyone thrives with vibrant spaces, resilient growth, and shared experience. Now, one of our priorities did talk about the resiliency of the community, but that could be a term that kind of trips us up a little bit as well. But what are the initial thoughts on this sample mission statement? Or any thoughts on mission statements that were created by council members in the meantime, since we last met?
Any thoughts, council members?
I think it's pretty good. I think it addresses a lot of the priorities that we're focusing on. It's pretty succinct and gets to the point. And I like how it reads. I like how it flows.
Councilmember Williams?
I like the statement, but it doesn't seem to match the formula. So I guess I'm a little bit confused.
Well, the formula is just a framework, but you can divert from that if you like the statement or create something on that. You know, in a sense, we are building a safe, affordable community. So that's your action. We don't have a for statement, you know, but maybe it's the for statement is where everyone thrives. But, you know, maybe it needs a because statement. Why are we doing this?
I don't necessarily think it needs to. I think that just adds words to something that already states what we wanted. Just, everyone kind of covers that, right? And
Because I want to live here. That's a given though.
Well, when I look at that, I kind of feel like it's because duh. But I don't think we should probably add that in.
And sometimes it could be very obvious like that as well.
we can add because duh at the end of the sentence.
It'd be a first, but I think it would get people reading your strategic plan.
There
So
you go.
make that a little Easter egg and offer a little pride.
There you're right. See
to
who
find
notices
that.
it.
Yeah.
All right. Any other thoughts? Help? Or did he hit it right on the nose pretty much?
And we can think about it and put it in the documents and see what we need to do at final reading.
Okay, that's good.
Okay,
Good job.
Thank you.
thank you. All right, so on to priorities, and this is the one that our Councilmember Williams had kind of summed up our conversation last time into what we wanted to do with the priorities. So if you recall, like a priority is going to be your biggest issues, your opportunities, faces the organization in the long term. So I have 3 to 15 years up here, but these could all be priorities for the entirety of the life, up into infinity for the community, like public safety. We want to make the public safe. That's going to be a continual priority for College Place. Typically, they're 1 or 2 words, but we've got a great, I feel a pretty great set of priorities that describe, and they're kind of a little bit of an alter from safe community, but College Place, the priorities we came up with at our last meetings, College Place is a safe community, an affordable community, a resilient community, a connected community, and a fun community. And as we talked about them hitting those priorities from the survey and from our interview results, safe community obviously hits with public safety, your police, fire. That can also translate into infrastructure. We've had some communities say our community is safe because it's well lit. We've got good street lights. We've got great signage. We also have a great police department, fire department. An affordable community. So that gets into the affordable, diverse housing, the attainable housing, available housing, as we talked about. Growth. Is it affordable to do business here? Is that a priority? And we can frame some goals around that. A resilient community. Are we planning for the proper future? Are we providing infrastructure, water, utilities? Are we protected in case of, a global pandemic? Can our community thrive and last through there? A lot of the priorities and a lot of the feedback we got from the community engagement portion talked about being informed, and the last couple of years it's been great that the community has been more informed, but we have a connected community, so the community is engaged, they're involved, they're informed residents, and engagement from the community creates a fun community. Are they attending community events? Are they going to parks? Are we improving our parks to make it a fun community as well? So these were the 5 priorities. You want at least 5 to 7 priorities in your strategic plan. We all kind of gave a little thought to it last time and a head nod and said, let's move forward. I know we needed to move on with the meeting as well. So maybe that was, let's move forward and get you out of here. But any thoughts since we last met in the last 3 weeks?
I think that based on the survey that our citizens filled out, our job is to be stewards of what our citizens feel that they need. And so these 5 priorities encapsulate what the community wants. So I think it's good that we reinforce those and put them down on our priorities list versus my own priorities or our own priorities that divert from what the community wants.
I like that.
Councilmember Williams?
I just wanted to say that Councilmember Jessup brought in a really good, which unfortunately I'm not entirely sure where I put my copy, but Councilmember Jessup brought in some more thoughts on this, and he had, I thought, some really good tweaks to this. I don't know if there's
All eyes on you.
The priorities. you had brought in
Oh, yeah.
some thoughts.
That's kind, thank you for saying so. I like these. I just came up with an acronym SCORE.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's all. And that's just kind of the safe, connected, opportunity, resilient and environment, but I mean, it could be tweaked and, I'm with, Councilmember Espinoza as well in the terms of, it seems to me that these 5 hit on what the surveys say and what they wanted. Though I appreciate the head nod there.
Okay. With a little bit of change on the order here, I see scarf.
That's what I saw too.
Yeah.
Scarf, kind of warms you up, right?
To be honest with you, between the vision statement, mission statement, I mean, I've been through 1,000 of these in my life and profession. The more complicated they are, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Mhm.
So the vision statement's still long. The mission statement, the one we have is pretty nice. The one you put up there is more specific. And these seem simplistic. Just the simpler, the better. We can overcomplicate things, including myself, very quickly. So whatever we can do that's so simple that we can just, as you say, put it on the streets. So we're not just talking heads, that we actually just are like, yeah, we got a safe community. How you doing that? And then we can explain further. So anything, my 2 cents is anything we can do to make it as simple and easy and memorable as possible for people that we can talk to at lunch or down the street or at church or whatever, the better.
Okay.
And these 5 lines hit exactly what is a priority for us because it was a priority for our community.
Mhm.
And I don't think any more needs to be said or added. It hits them.
Okay. We have a little bit of time if we want to get into a couple goals or at least go through a goal setting exercise for 1 or 2 of these.
All right. How much time do we have?
Oh, that's all. Well, I could take all night, but
I didn't know if you were given a time limit.
I was not. I know that there's a budget review, so
Yeah.
having worked in local government, I know how those can go.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hey, I'm not giving the budget review,
Yeah.
so I don't need the. Oh, okay. I got you. So quickly with goal setting, and I know we had some great conversation on October 1st about housing, about the condition of like code enforcement and some of the dilapidated housing, I believe Councilmember Peterson talked about. So we were drilling down into what we would want to see and what we would want to see accomplished here in College Place. If you look at the screen in front of you for setting goals, what you look at with priorities and goals, you keep it simple and it gets more specific as you go down. So council has created the priorities, your biggest issues facing the community. So highlighted up there is a connected community, which is one of the priorities that you have. City council also creates a goal. So that's like where you want to be as far as a connected community. That's your destination. It's longer term, but it's something that can go like, 3 to 5 years. You want to make it a goal that you want to set. Now, some goals you may not be able to start for another year or 2. If it's, build a new city hall, well, you got to raise funds and you got to find a place for it. So that's not anything that you can do right away.
Oh, you don't know our Mike.
Oh, I know Mike. Yeah. Actually, Mike, yeah.
He'll
But
find
a
us a
goal
ride tomorrow.
as far as getting more specific with your priorities that's where you want to be as far as your priority goes. So an example up there for connected community, your goal with having a connected community is to ensure that residents and business owners are informed about community events. Simple as that. Getting deeper into the project and to strategic planning, we may have some things that are mentioned by council that could be an objective. That's the direction you want to take your goals. So to ensure that residents and business owners are informed in the community, you may have an objective to establish a communication staff member position or an internal team that focuses on outreach to the community. So that might not be something you do this budget cycle or the next couple, but as you look towards that, that could be an objective to achieve that. And then we get into, once the strategic plan is approved by council and adopted, then we will work with the staff to come up with these projects to adopt your goals and to put them in place. So an example for that is your specific tangible accomplishment that's near term. So, You have an objective to establish a communication staff member position focused on that and focused on outreach. Project for the staff and leadership could be, okay, what are the budget costs to establish and fund a new position on staff for this? You know, look at the marketing, try to get the numbers together to inform council. Any questions on sort of how that funnel goes down? Inverted triangle, if you will, gets more specific. So do we want to start at least trying a couple goals with a certain priority that we have?
I think looking at the faces, they don't want to start that.
They don't.
They don't.
Okay.
Or am I incorrect? Do you guys want to start? No? You want to move on?
I want to say that I want to leave some bandwidth for the next presentation. I think that we used some good mental energy on what we've covered so far, just my feel.
Okay.
That's the hard part of meetings in the
I'd agree
evening.
with that.
Yeah. And it's a 7 o'clock start instead
Right.
of the 5:30 workshop.
Councilmember Williams?
I'm totally okay with moving on, but I did just kind of want to put a pin in something that a constituent brought up to me, and that is how to find groups that are into your hobbies or hobbies that you want to learn or shared interests, things like that. And the mayor and I talked a little bit about how we could sort of set the table so that those kinds of groups could easily form, they could find each other. Once our city hall is built, we could even give them meeting space, etc. So I kind of would like to just put a pin in that because I think that's a goal, not as a connected community and a
Sure.
fun community, not a priority or anything.
And I wrote that down on my flip chart, Councilmember Williams. So, but I think that's great. Finding a forum or a place where like-minded, groups can, a database. I'm interested in this. There's a group that meets every Tuesday. It's fantastic.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, I think it's great. Not to drag this out, but I think to come back to us with what you have for notes for the vision and mission, I think that'll clarify us, and then we can move into the
Set the
goals.
stage.
Yeah, I that's my point. I think maybe.
Yeah, I think it'll
Yeah.
set that
But so
clarity.
we get that clarified and organized in our,
Sure.
yeah, I think, because we had some great input there. So yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, I think in my conversation with City Manager Rizzatello, we're looking at November 12th to be a meeting to come back, not election night on November 5th. Certainly that's going to be a busy night with a lot of focus elsewhere. But most likely November 12th would be a time we come back with this.
Yeah, yep. We are canceled on that. We
Oh,
have,
yeah, I think we did say it was
right,
canceled. Yeah,
we voted to perpetually cancel on election nights.
Got 2 public hearings on the 12th.
Oh,
That might be really long, not.
I'll work with Mike when he
Please do.
returns.
Yeah.
On a future date, and we can come back with the final vision, mission, priorities, and start tackling some goals.
thank you.
All
We
right,
appreciate it.
you bet. Thanks, everyone. Yes.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everybody, for your participation and your thoughts on this. I know sometimes it can get really academic, but I think it helps us. Okay, so next. Am I looking at finally, or I am. Mr. Carlton has the first fiscal year 2025 budget review for us.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to say this will be quick, but it's going to take a little bit to get through all this. I'm not going to lie to you. If you can bring up the presentation, I'll see if this works. Oh, not yet. Hey, it works. Yeah. Think so. All right, here we go for another year, 2025 budget. We are a couple weeks behind. Mike's CIP and capital got delayed one council meeting and we pushed this, a council meeting. Tonight, we were actually supposed to be doing the property tax levy public hearing, but we've pushed that out to the 12th meeting. We do have some room in the timing of getting all this done in time, so I'm sure we'll have enough presentations of the budget moving forward. I feel at this point, the budget's probably the furthest it's been along in the first iteration since I've been here. So I'm pretty confident with these numbers. They're pretty solid. They've been tied out to the most part. Interfund transfers have been tied. Capital's been tied. And we'll go through the detail.
Does this include departments' budgets?
That is supposed to be the one on the 12th. But everything's in here from their input.
Okay.
They're just not here to comment if there was questions. Hopefully I'm knowledgeable enough. So I won't go through every line of detail, but this is showing you where we're at in the process. And we're currently going to be at the end of October. I'm filing the budget with the budget message and files. Following weeks, various property tax levies. There is a date mistake on there. The setting property tax levy says 11/12/23. We are a little late on that, but that's supposed to be the 2024. So that'll be coming up. We'll have the first budget hearing on that same council meeting on the 12th. We'll make the budget available shortly after that to the public. If there's a finance committee meeting decision, we'll have that in the latter part of November. And then all resulting in the final hearing and proposed budget on the 10th of December. Some of the key assumptions, I didn't change these from last year. A lot like the strategic plan. We feel these are kind of core principles for the city as far as operations, conservative projections on revenues and expenditures. We do base those on the departmental requests, and we don't, we go through each year separately and determine what's required for that year, as opposed to some entities which have this much money. If you go under, the next year you get less. That's not our approach. Our approach is, tell us what you need and if it works into the budget. Of course, maintaining those core services, our utilities, our public safety, and investing in critical infrastructure, also a key component. And then addressing any staffing gaps and also looking at competitive wages so we can retain our good employees. And finally, continue obtaining grants and different funding opportunities. So this is where we stand currently on the preliminary budget. We are starting off the year with a just under $24 million opening fund balance. That does include $6.8 million of carryover funding on the TIF, the bond proceeds, which are going to be used for 3 or 4 different projects, Majania Road, the parking lots, the east-west connector, and the traffic circle on College Avenue for the new development. That bond will be closing this Friday, and the proceeds on that are about $8.8 million. We anticipate using, approximately $2 million this year in funding, with that 6.8 carrying over to next year. So that does end up in our beginning fund balance. So it's sort of inflated. You can see based on this, we're showing a revenue of 75 million, expenditures of just over 82 million, which includes that TIF bond spending next year, and then ending up with an ending fund balance of 17.2. If you take out the 6.8 million, that results in a just over $17 million beginning fund balance, which shows that we are technically showing a slight increase in ending fund balance for next year, which is a good sign. If you follow any of the city's budgeting. There are a number of jurisdictions in the state that are struggling with balancing their budgets, using up reserves, and there's a number of problems. And I think a lot of that relates to the ARPA money, and a lot of entities use that ARPA money to fund personnel. And now that that funding is gone, they're in a cash crunch, and there's a number of jurisdictions that are having that problem.
Councilmember Peterson, you have a question or
Yeah.
comment?
Fund balance is interesting because it has these funds that are moving back and forth, that are unrelated to year-to-year operations. How does and you may not have this, but the 17 million, how does that compare to prior years? Do you look at that as it goes from year to year?
Yeah, and I was looking at that when earlier today, and I was going, I should provide you some frame of reference for where that's at. And I actually thought about it.
But I'm just saying,
Next time, listen to yourself.
no,
Yeah,
so, no, but what's your feeling?
no, it's a slight reduction.
Yeah,
To be honest, we've done a lot of spending, and there has been some fund drawdowns in the last couple of years. A good example was ARPA. In 21, we had probably $2 million more in ending fund balance, but then it's sort of deceiving because it's expected to be spent the next year, so it's not like it's available for general use. So that's part of the problem with being a cash basis type of structure is it's deceiving because you're not showing those commitments in your ending fund balance. So I try to bring those up. So it does look like we're having a huge drawdown, but is expected. Last year, we also had a drawdown from the prior year because we carried forward money in our REIT 2 fund for Lions Park. And that was about $1.5 million.
yeah.
So there's different components year to year, but yeah, I can provide some.
Well, and
change.
$1 today is not the same as 10 years ago,
And
I get
if
that
you
also.
recall last year in my final couple presentations, I did present a graph which showed what the direction of the ending fund balance was. I just didn't have time in this this go around.
Yeah. Be nice to see if you, at some point, but no pressure. Thanks.
On to the next. This is really hard to see, I know. But there's a lot of number here. This is all of our funds, opening balance, revenues, expenditures, the ending fund balance, and then I put a change column in for this year. I'll sort of do it in summary of each major category just so we can move through. You can see in the current expense, the first underlined row that we start out the opening fund balance at just about $2.3 million. We end at 2.6 million, so a $259,000 increase in ending fund balance. We are in compliance on our current expense. The first row, we are at just under $1.8 million in ending fund balance, and that is in compliance with our reserve requirements. Going through the process of our recent bonding, S&P 500, which rated us AA-, which is excellent rating. They told me that we would not get a higher rating than that just because of our size of the city. So it's an excellent rating, and we got one of the lowest rates on our bond that these guys have seen in a while. So that's very positive, but they would like to see us at a $2 million current expense ending fund balance. So that's our goal, and don't know if we can get there next year, but it's definitely going to be something we talk about in the management groups. The next group is our special revenue funds, which includes our criminal justice fund, forfeited proceeds, and hotel motel tax. And we are having a slight reduction in that net funds from 128 to 114. The justice, we do fund some of that money goes towards our police officer in there's a name for it, the special officer in the high school. That comes out of that fund. So a slight drawdown there. We didn't have one for, I believe it was 2 years.
Correct. So our SRO, our senior resource officer, paying him does not come out of our regular budget?
Some of it's split.
Okay.
Some of it comes out of here. Because that's there's a lot allowable activities for the criminal justice money. And that money comes from the state and it has to be directed towards certain things. And one of those is an allowed expenditure.
I forget about those rules.
The next group is our some of our debt service funds that aren't related to the utilities. You can see we have our UTGO bond fund that was for the CARS project. That's still ongoing. We don't have to maintain because of the nature, it's funded by property taxes. We don't have to maintain a 1 year's amount of payments. So therefore we just pass enough money in there to cover the loan payment. That is also part of our bond refunding that we did with the bond proceeds. And we are going to be saving about $20,000 to $30,000 a year in interest by refunding that bond. So that also happens this coming Friday. The next group of funds is our capital reserve funds. And you can see the 3 are new additions at the bottom. The last 2 are our transportation benefit district, which was approved last year. You can see that it does have a slight drawdown of $90,000. That's due to the fact that we had anticipated a full year's of revenue. This year, we're only got about half a year, so we're expecting a full year next year. And we are using that money to fund needed road and street projects. And you can see the big one is the tax increment financing fund. That's a new fund that'll fund all those projects that you approved last year. And there's that $6.8 million is bolded to show that opening fund balance of the proceeds, the remaining proceeds for those projects. One other thing to note is you can see up in the REIT 2, it's showing a drawdown as well as we finalize spending on Lions Park. As you recall, we had accumulated about $1.5 million of funds to go towards the project. So we are showing a drawdown. So we'll use future years to build that fund back up. The next group is the total of the streets funds. You can see that they're doing they're showing a slight increase in fund balance. If projects in the streets aren't federally funded, then a majority of that funding comes through current expense, funds the streets where it's not funded by another source of revenue. So that we're doing a reasonable job there. The water fund is the next group. You can see there's a drawdown there. When I get into the projects, you'll see the number of projects going in there and a lot of grant funding, but yet we have to supply some of our own funds to meet match. So there's a slight drawdown there. Utility rates, we'll get into those in the revenue slide coming up. The total waste fund, you can see we're showing a positive 408,000 growth in ending fund balance. And that fund is doing extremely well. So when we look at rate increases for next year, we will be recommending a lower rate increase for the wastewater fund, as they're doing quite well as far as ending fund balance. Years past, we had anticipated requiring a lot more of the city's funds to go into the wastewater treatment plant. And we were accumulating funds in there. Our rate model showed that we needed those increases to fund. But since we got so much money in grant funding, it's kind of eased up the pressure on the wastewater fund. Stormwater, you can see we're showing a slight drawdown as there's a number of capital projects going in there. You can see the revenues and expenditures in the capital projects. And from an operations perspective, a slight drawdown just because operating costs and whatnot, we're still good as far as our reserve requirements are. So that fund balance going forward covers what we're required to. Near the bottom is the ambulance utility fund, and it has a slight drawdown for next year, just the way the numbers worked out, not intentional, but they're carrying forward a healthy fund balance. The last two, the equipment and the final flexibility or flexible benefits plan fund, you can see is doing where it's supposed to.
Here, I have a question.
Councilmember Espinosa?
Brian, so as I look at the breakdown, the revenue that's coming into the city is $76 million. Yet we're spending 82 million in expenditures. As I look into the next 5 years at this rate of spending more money than what's coming in, do you see that a problem?
No, and as I spoke, a large majority of that variance, as you can see midway through, is the tax increment financing through the bond. The revenues are coming in this year, so they don't appear in the revenue column. They appear in that opening fund balance. So it's like we put money into a savings account and we're going to use it next year. So 6.8 million or $6.2 million of that 82 is for a project that had money that was previously funded.
So it's accounted for just a little bit different.
Yeah, it's accounted for in the fact that we've put that money into the savings account the year before and we're going to use it this year. So the expenditures are going to be high, but we're going to draw out of that opening fund balance to make up for it.
Gotcha.
So if you backed out that $6.8 million carry forward, then like I said earlier, we show almost a $200,000 increase in the ending fund balance.
Year over year?
Just for this year.
Just for this year.
Yeah, it varies every year, just depending on how revenues work out, how we plan them, the costs, how they work out, cost increases. You know, the reality of it is for us in current expense, like that funds, you know, administration, it funds police, fire, parks to most extent before grants, streets before grants. You're seeing inflation, you guys know, at, 5% over the last few years. And we're very restricted in our revenue sources for current expense. We have taxes, we have property tax, sales tax, we have the utility tax, and besides, other than grants, that's all we have. So if those aren't increasing, you're sort of got that revenue going this way, but costs going this way. So we got to be so careful of this gap between revenue sources and expenditures. And that was a big focus this year, that we were very careful. We tried to be conservative on the revenues and take the expenditures as the departments needed.
Yeah. Is there any way to look at the variance between prior year to this year for the expenditures columns so that we can see where the increases or decreases are?
I can provide something in the next presentation.
Okay.
I do want to say, since we do a cash basis financing, that means we actually account for the money we have in our pocket right now, right? Or in our bank account, and what bills we're paying now. So it's really hard to compare year over year because you might have gotten this money in this year specifically for a big project in 2 years that's coming up, like Lions Park.
Yeah.
It looks good. It's sitting in your savings account for 2 years, and then bam, you're going to use it. And that year you didn't get as much money, so it takes you in the negative. So it's all about timing and when money is spent, when it comes in. So seeing a negative doesn't necessarily shouldn't mean a concern if it was something that we already had a planned expense for. We are not running an upside down budget. Right. It's literally what we're spending now, what we're earning now and what we're spending now. So it does throw numbers off because of timing and projects.
Right. And normally, if you were an accrual base, that would be on the balance sheet. So we don't have a balance sheet, so cash basis.
And I think a lot of business minded, that's literally how you're used to seeing finances is accruals for expenses and depreciations, and that's not how a cash basis budget works.
Yeah, and I'll present a slide in the next presentation that kind of will help with that. Come up with something.
Any other questions on this page? Brian, I do have a question because going back up to the special revenue funds, the criminal justice fund and the forfeited proceeds fund.
Yeah,
Okay, where does this money come from? I mean, I
The
get the
state.
forfeited. The state
yeah, all
Okay.
that money comes from the state.
and the forfeited,
Actually, the hotel motel tax comes from the state as well.
He
So they
threw
all
in-
come from the state.
okay, so he threw in $20 revenue for,
That's interest.
so no money at all for, so,
No, I don't think we got any this year either.
okay,
So
interesting, because I
forfeited
could have sworn we'd
proceeds-
done some arrests where money was
Yeah, well,
there.
I've not got anything from the state on it. So maybe something to look at. I'll talk to Troy about it.
Yeah, please do. Because the state's not gonna give any money.
Those- Yeah, it might be, and I don't quote me, but it might be that those were felony matters and it was the state prosecuting the person.
Oh, could be.
And so I think we might still get a chunk of that, but I can do that research, Brian and council.
Okay.
Thank you. You know, I do have concerns that the state's not gonna give up any money they don't have to, so I'd like to research that.
Here's the next sheet is showing our financial policies, our reserve requirements. And to save some time, I won't go through every one. The only one we're not in compliance with is our current expense reserve fund, which was set up a number of years ago. It was called our rainy day fund in case there was emergencies that we required. Any expenditures out of that fund require council approval. And we added a little bit to it this year, I think about 150,000. But based on our financial policy is 10% of current expense budgeted revenues. Based on that, we would need 885. Again, this is a target in our policies and not a fixed amount. So, you know, we want to move in that direction, but unfortunately, based on constraints, we don't feel at this time we can add any additional funds to that account. Otherwise, all our other requirements are in excess of our targets. So I think we're in good shape. Next slide is key assumptions. Just so we have a lot to go through. So just some highlights. In current expense, we are recommending no increase in property taxes again. That will give us a 3% carryover for the levy amount in future years if we so deem. We are recommending, it's down further in the stormwater, that we recommend implementing a 10% utility tax. That's estimated in 2025 to be $75,000. And all our two other utilities, water and wastewater, both have the utility tax. And also we'd be in line with Walla Walla, which has a utility tax on their stormwater. Their rate is a little bit higher at, I think 13% on their utility taxes. And that's the one mechanism we have where we can move some utility money from there into current expense, because all the taxes go into current expense. Yes.
Oh, Councilmember Jessup?
You said this earlier, so I forgot. Forgive me for forgetting, but I have two quick questions. One, why is it that the wastewater fund is in excess that much? You mentioned that, but I forget.
We had accumulated money for a number of years in order to fund the wastewater treatment plant improvements.
That's right.
And we figured that, you know, at that point in time when we started that maybe we get a 50-50 grant. And I don't even think it was that much, to be honest, but we were expecting we'd have to pull a lot more money out of the utility in order to fund those required improvements.
And then for the stormwater funds, the recommendation for the 10% is about 75,000. What are we anticipating? Why is that necessary? Why do you feel that's
that
recommended?
helps support current expense?
With the stormwater fund?
while the utility tax that's charged in the stormwater actually gets transferred into current expense.
So, okay, so you're saying the only negative on this anyway is current expense reserve fund is the negative. Everything else is in excess,
Yes.
but so
We can't always spend money from one fund because
yeah.
it has to be for that one.
So in order to avoid that transfer, you're
Well, we can't transfer, so.
Sure.
No, the utilities operate like a little business.
Mhm.
They operate standalone and you can't transfer money in between the different utilities and current expense. But you are allowed to with the use of the utility tax. And right now we charge a 10% utility tax on wastewater and water. And we're recommending to start a utility tax on the stormwater at 10%.
So this fits into my comment at the end of a few council meetings ago that we're gonna have to do something to cover increase of costs that we're going to just need. We need more staff, we mean capacity, that types of stuff. So this helps cover those additional expenses.
Right, I was talking at the beginning about the limited sources of revenues for current expense. And a lot of those are out of our control. Sales tax, property tax. For property tax, we only get 2.7 cents on the dollar comes to the city of College Place. The rest of it goes to various entities, and I'll show you that the dollar bill in one of the following presentations that shows you the makeup of what we get in property taxes. We get about $2 million a year in property taxes, about $2 million a year in sales tax, and then there's some few other excise taxes and the utility tax we get to help support current expense, because there's not a lot of sources of revenue for police and fire. It's supported by those entities. And as those costs, like I said, as our revenues are sort of flatlined because they're either property taxes limited at 1% or you're out of your control, but yet your costs are going like this, you get a gap. So we're trying to help fund that gap a little bit. And that utility tax is one way to help.
Great, thank you.
I do want to make a comment. I was talking with Chief Tamars the other day, and he had talked about how in 2019, when I had become mayor, we had 7 police officers. Today we have 16. We have a part of the drug task force, the student resource officer, a detective, right? So it's great. That's wonderful that we've built up our law enforcement, but they come at a cost, right? Because they make us no money, obviously. So that is there. But I have a question. Didn't you say earlier that our wastewater, or was it our stormwater? No, our wastewater was healthy and that you're going to recommend a cut?
A lower rate of increase.
Okay.
By 1%, I think is the number that's in there right now.
And the reason for that increase is just to get some revenue in there?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
unknowns, just a minimal amount of increase.
Okay. I'm sorry, Councilmember Peterson?
So the 10%, it sounds exciting on stormwater, right?
Yeah.
But the stormwater is a much smaller piece.
Yes, correct.
So in other words, we hear 10% and I question it, but the stormwater, as far as the total part of the utility bill.
It's a pretty small number.
Exactly. And so that's something to keep in mind, of course. It's 10% of
Like it's only $75,000
instead of 10% of $100 or something.
Right. It's
right.
It's only $75 spread amongst 10,000 citizens over a year. So it's not very much. But it helps.
Yeah, it helps.
It helps.
It's not proportional as far as the other.
If I took that $75,000 out right now as it sits, we would not be in compliance and current expense on our reserve requirement.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's close.
But we'd have to cut something.
Well, we've already done some.
We've done some cuts.
Yeah.
From John's department?
No.
No, I'm just joking.
That's funded by a grant.
I'm just joking. Okay, any other questions? Any questions? No? No one online? Nope,
Okay,
okay.
back to our key assumptions. COLA wage increases are included in current expense. And again, our ARPA spending, which was started in 2021 at $2.6 million, is almost done. We are carrying forward about $12,000 to next year, and it funds BMAX, a utility assistance program on our behalf, so that they have a little bit of money left for next year. That money has to be committed by the end of 2025 and spent by the end of 2026. So we're almost done with that. We're almost done with the Tyler implementation. We're currently, John's going through the deployment of the community development portal, and we have one module left is asset management, which we'll look at early next year. The capital reserve funds, the REIT spending on Lions Park project, we're carrying over $1 million in capital to 2025, and that's included in the budget. Transportation district, which was started Q2 of 2024, the 2025 projected revenue at $260,000. That will help fund some of the street projects. Then the tax increment financing, which you've all are fully aware of. That funding of $8.7 million with a $7 million, I think a $6.8 million carryover in the budget for next year. Our street funds, a lot of street projects next year, just over 15 million funded by grants, the Transportation Benefit District and the TIF. Our water funds, inflationary cost increases are funded by rate increases. I think the water is at 3% in there currently for next year, according to the 2022 rate model, which is in its last year of usability. We're showing some increase in permit revenue for anticipated development. And there's $17 million of water projects, and I've got a slide for water projects, or all the projects a little later. The wastewater fund, we're showing a modest increase in 2025 of 1%. Permit revenue increased in that area, just like in water, wastewater. And we have $7.5 million in capital projects funded by mostly loans or grants. The stormwater, as we spoke, we're showing a 3.5% increase in rate there per the rate model. We're recommending a 10% utility tax, which would result in approximately $75 million in additional revenue, although that does go to current expense. And they have $7 million of improvements in the budget funded by grants or operating transfers. The ambulance utility, what you guys last meeting approved on consent, the increase in the billing rates for 2025, although in the current iteration of the budget, we did not anticipate any additional increase in revenue. So that's definitely a potential upside in the ambulance utility. Annual cost increases are expected to be covered by increased billing rates. And we are showing a slight decrease in fund balance over the prior year, but nothing that's, earth shattering.
Councilmember Peterson?
I'm sorry, I want to go back to, not to beat a dead horse. You just mentioned that the 10% was a 7 million. It's actually 75,000. Is that?
Oh, did I say 75 million?
No, I thought you said, I thought I heard you say 7 million.
Well, there's 7 million of capital projects in
Right.
stormwater next year.
But the tax is 75,000.
Yep.
And I may have missed it. Okay, thank you.
75 million.
That'd be nice.
Just so you don't lose your voice, I just
No,
want
I
to
won't.
remind you to go ahead and just hit any key things.
Okay. You want me to move on quick? Are you asleep yet? We did look at the estimated revenue drivers at the workshop. So I won't go into detail. Nothing real surprising here. Again, we are looking at a 0% increase in our property taxes, leaving us at 3%. Although realistically, a 1% increase in property taxes only generates about $25,000 in revenue for us. So, you know, there is an opportunity to get a little bit of money in there if we needed to. We are showing a bit of increase in our sales tax for next year due hopefully to new business. Although if you look at prior years, 23, at just over $3 million was a really good year, but you know, our forecast for this year is slightly down and we're showing a slight increase for next year. Some of the other key components, you can see down in the TIF, about halfway down, that's where that $7.8 million comes in. That's like putting it into a savings account for use next year. So those capital expenditures next year are pre-funded $7.8 million. The water funds, you know, the rate model increases, nothing too crazy. We are showing some planned development revenues that we've been hoping for the last few years that we think are going to make it in for next year.
Yeah, so that looks like a huge increase, but we haven't had a lot of revenue in past years because we just haven't had we issued one new house start this year, which is usually we're in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 houses a year. Because we don't have any active development going on. We've got a few small projects and then you know, we've got a larger one coming on, hopefully around 37 units. They're in final plat stages. And then we're hearing good things about that big apartment complex on Whitman. So that's where that newfound income is coming from.
And fortunately that we have decent reserve balances in those funds. So if it doesn't happen, it's not life-threatening or fund balance threatening. But, you know, we have to anticipate it because we're going to have some costs associated with it. So you can't have the cost without the revenue. And it's usually vice versa. If we don't have the revenue, we don't have the costs. A lot of that occurs with our capital projects. If we don't get the grants or the funding, then the project doesn't go forward. The stormwater revenues you can see are slightly down. I used what was from the rate model. I think we're a little better on revenues than our rate model showed, although I did use the number from the rate model, which we have consistently done, and a slight decrease in revenues. We use some historical averages on the revenues and we feel comfortable. It's down slightly, 60,000. So that's where we show in our revenues. Next slide is our staff budgeting. You can see currently we're at 67 employees. We do have one part-time employee. It's our records clerk. Positions added that are currently in this iteration of the budget. We have a senior planner, although that is grant funded for the next year with a potential extension. Yeah. And then we have our arborist, which is part of that tree grant that we had late last year. That is also grant funded. We're increasing the IT analyst position to a manager position, so slight increase in there. We are recommending a police lieutenant added. Also a stormwater worker and a financial analyst to take care of all these grants.
Councilmember Williams?
When do you expect these positions that have been added, when will we start asking for applications for those?
That's a good question. And I know the senior planner, John's working currently on.
Yeah, so we've advertised for that position and we're actually in the process of setting up interviews for that, so that the application process is closed.
That one's on our webpage.
Yeah, I think it's kind of still open until we fill it. So like if something great came in, I mean, if you knew someone send them our way, but, yeah, it's still technically open until we fill it.
Yeah, there's some of the other ones on here that I might send some people towards, but
Yeah,
so
I
that's why
think,
I'm wondering when
That
they're
would be on in HR,
yeah.
be the,
So I think some of these, well, obviously the ones that are being added with no funding, they can't even advertise until till we approve the funding for them. And then
Right.
they've got some of them need job descriptions and HR is gonna have to be taking some time off. So Mike and Desharee, are gonna be covering for HR for 12 weeks, I think. is
12
what-
weeks.
Yeah, and that IT analyst position or IT manager position, we're promoting IT analyst. He's been a fantastic
Mhm.
asset to us. So, and we want to reward him for that and also make sure that we retain him. So,
Yeah, the police lieutenant's a new position and I'm not sure the time frame of hiring on that. Stormwater worker, same. The financial analyst, of course, works for me. It's not gonna happen till, probably after first quarter till Sean's back. We just don't have the resources to keep up with everything. And we have a new person starting in accounts payable in a week. So there'll be training there. So we're sort of,
Yeah, and
It'll
with
be-
Desharee now doing another.
yeah, she'll be doing the HR stuff for 12 weeks. We just don't have the capacity to get that one done.
Okay. Thank you.
So the wages and benefits, some of these are contractual, the police and fire, police at 4%, fire at 6%. The public union is in negotiations and some of the increases piggyback off that increase. That is the non-union exempt. The sergeants, they're at the police rate increase at 4%. Contract employees are based on a CPI from September, and that's currently, that's at 2.2%. And then an increase for the city administrator to try to maintain his employment.
Councilmember Peterson?
So the IT manager, that's a promotion, not a replacement?
Correct.
Okay. And this is the individual that Mike speaks highly of.
For IT, yes.
Yeah, John.
Everybody does.
Basis,
Yeah.
that saves it. Okay, he's a on-site.
Yeah, of course, then we're not having the outside services.
Right.
Cost and
So,
it's worked out quite well.
so
It's not an addition, but
it's an increase.
yeah, Sean put this together for me, so
Perfect.
she put
No.
everything on
yeah,
there
it's
that's happening.
it's a new position. So that's why.
We don't have two people. We have.
No.
Yeah,
One person, it'll be a slight cost increase.
perfect. Thank you.
I can move that one off there if you don't.
It's more of a promotion than it is
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I'm gonna take that out. And then health increases, the police at 4.2% with no increase in vision, dental or standard life. All other employees, health is going up 7.3% with no increased dental, vision, standard life and employee assistance program. So I thought we fared quite well when I've been hearing about, 15, 20, 30% increases in health. So I think we've fared quite well so far. Now for a quick summary of our capital facility plans. I know Mike presented this. I just wanted to show you that this is all incorporated into this current budget. We have admin and community development. That's the city hall, the first portion of the city hall renovation, if the funding is available for it. Fire, there's an ESCO upgrade grant that's going to fund improvements to the fire hall of 1.3 million. We've got the police at 4 million. That is currently not in the budget. Of course, we decided not to put it in at this point because it's going to go to vote. If the vote occurs, then I'll put it in the budget because we'll have $14 million in revenue go into the budget next year with cost, however long it takes to design and build the fire station over the next police station, sorry. So currently that's not in the budget, but it's just a matter of adding, $14 million in revenue and $14 million in expenditure. So, the parks, we have in there 1.6 million. There's the Veterans Park is at 1 million, and the Lions Park Community Center, the start of that project at 500,000. In the storm utility, we have $6.9 million in capital expenditures. Majority of that's in two projects, the decant facility, which is being designed currently, and then we have Southeast Birch at 3.4 million. In the streets, there's a number of projects. You can see $13.5 million in expenditures next year. We have the parking lots at 1.7 million, which is funded by TIF. We have the Southeast, I think it's Fifth
Brian,
Street.
I know you like line items.
Oh, don't? You guys falling asleep? Okay. We have the wastewater at 7.2 million. Water has 17.6 million in projects for a total of $53 million, which is a majority grant funded. On to the next one. I'm trying to go fast.
I don't think you can help yourself.
Here's the equipment replacement plan. Well, I worked for months doing this. Well, it's not all year, but from like August until December, this is what
This
I
is your
do.
life.
That's funny. So here's our equipment replacement. You can see we're totaling $1.15 million. A majority of that is in the streets and a dump truck at 325,000, a bunch of other smaller stuff. We did pull out about $300,000 out of the streets for a piece of equipment. It's funded by current expense and we just couldn't do it. We originally had in there's 6 police vehicles due for replacement. Our leases are up. Middle of next year, we were looking at maybe purchasing those, but that's a tune of $500,000. So we're going to continue with the leasing program. It seems to work for us, and definitely we don't have the working capital out of current expense to fund, $500,000 in police vehicles. Leasing is a good alternative. So that's where we stand on equipment. I think this is a lot lower than we have been in historically for equipment. We are getting up,
Finally getting everything.
Finally getting everything where it needs to be. Next slide is our IT, and similar with IT, our Tyler project is almost complete. That ended up costing us just for implementation close to $300,000, which comes out of current expense. So that won't be incurred next year, but we do have those recurring maintenance, and of this total, there's got to be at least like 40 or 50 programs that this funds that run the city.
Yeah, we have a lot of software that makes up that administrative finance section.
And that is in the detail that was presented in Mike's budget the last
See,
meeting.
this kind of presentation is what I'm talking about.
Okay, and here we go. Next steps. I got some reconciliations to do just to make sure everything ties out. Our interfund transfers have to equal 0, the revenues and expenditures. I'm going to continue to review the capital. We'll review the revenues and costs for any discrepancies and get ready for the public hearing on the 12th. And I'll provide that additional slide on the ending fund balance trend. That's it for this go around. Questions?
Councilmember Peterson, make sure you hit your microphone.
I can talk for
So
another
we talked
hour.
about fund balance trend, and we also wanted a expense variance.
The year for year?
Yeah, correct. So those two things, yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? You know, the thing is that
Good job.
you're teaching us well. So like, I think we're at the point where now we get what's going on here.
Sweet.
All right.
I need some help with grants if you got any free.
We need some, we have some spare time. All right. Thank you so very much,
Thank you.
Ryan. We do value your work. I know as much as I'm jabbing at you, we do value your work, and we know it's not as easy that as we are looking at numbers. So thank you. We really do acknowledge that.
To be honest, based on where inflation has gone, and I know our revenue sources are limited, I was really concerned that we weren't gonna make our reserve requirements. So I was happily surprised when you load all these numbers in and then you run your reports and you see it works and you go, wow, yeah.
Good feeling, man.
It is, yeah, especially when you hear all these other entities that are struggling.
Yeah.
It's a real positive.
And,
Yes.
and just
Councilmember.
as a quick wrap up, you feel like the reason why we're in good shape, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but you guys didn't necessarily use the ARPA money for salaries. You used it at that time.
We actually did use a couple. We did partly fund 1 year of the additional mechanic in the shop. And we funded, there was one more. Can't remember. There was one more. I'm blanking on it.
That's fine, but that's
there was a
great. So
couple-
it's repeatable. It's something you're continuing.
Reed, our attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
But they definitely weren't expenses, long-term expenses that we weren't going to be able to cover.
Yeah.
Any commitments. That's
Right.
that's a mistake that a lot of other ones made, is they made these long-term commitments with,
Yeah. and
Temporary
definitely having
money,
another
yeah.
Mechanic in the shop helps in that you're not having to farm out the repairs.
Yeah, good, great,
So, you know, it's a trade-off.
right, great.
And of course, same with in that we were spending, you know, a lot of money in monthly legal fees.
speaking of no, I know, but the indigent defense
listening.
fund,
Uh-huh.
is any of that going to be hitting our budget?
Um,
Do we know?
we've just put in the traditional trend,
Okay,
but we've not put additional money in for it.
okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to blame you for that one.
No, that's okay. We'll discuss it at the November council
Yeah, I
meeting.
think it's worth additional discussion. That's.
Yeah.
I missed.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's move on then. There's no public hearings. And we only have one action item on the agenda tonight, and Mr. Rickard, who's been so patient, will walk us through the awarding of our comprehensive economic development strategy contract to Economic Growth Strategies. Boy, that's a tongue twister.
I don't think I need to say anymore. I think it's perfect. Mike wrote a grant through Federal Economic Development Administration. So this is partially funded, 50% through that grant, and then the other 50% is coming out of the current expenses, but we have been budgeting for some sort of economic development plan. It'll be incorporated. This is a requirement for one of the granting requirements that we have to comply with. So this fulfills that requirement. And then also it'll backfeed into our comprehensive plan and provide us with needed information and research on that we'll use to determine if we need to, you know, make a proposal for expanding our urban growth area for commercial purposes or not. So this is, we're really fortunate to have some assistance on this, and the company we selected has done a lot of these. They're very well versed in it, and so we should end up with a really nice product. There's data collection involved in it, community input, And then also they coordinate with the public sector collaboration. So our other economic actors in the valley, like speaking with the port and our businesses in town and in the valley. And then they'll generate a final product for us. So should be really good.
All right. Council members, Jessup, questions, comments? No. Cleveland, none. Espinosa, Peterson, Williams? No. Sherman, no. Boyle, no. All right. Since we're moving right along, if there's no further discussion, is there a motion?
Motion to adopt resolution number 24-074, which authorizes city administrator to sign contract with Economic Growth Strategies LLC to complete a comprehensive economic development strategy for the city for $80,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Councilmember Espinosa was second. So Jessup first, Espinosa second. Any additional discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. There are no administrative reports in your packet today, but there are 6 informational for you to review if you have not done so. We do not have an executive session tonight, but we will on November 12th. So let's plan on that. And is there any other business for good of the order other than a reminder that there is no council workshop? Councilmember Peterson.
Brian, I want to thank you for your presentation. I just, no, and what I'm saying is, you know, there's a lot of detail. It goes on for a long time. But I remember council meetings in the past where, I'll just say, the details were not there. It was a blanket, you know, okay from the council members. And I think that as we go through this multiple times, it can be a lot of detail, it's a lot of information, but I'll say we are well informed. And I appreciate that, I really do. Especially like I just said, when we look back at prior decades or whatever, when there was just a vote yes or no with really not a lot of understanding perhaps sometimes, to be quite honest, of what was in the numbers. And I really appreciate your hard work and your staff. And I think we're well informed and it goes on for a while, you know, we digest it, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Here, here.
I think everybody, thank you. I think that's, everybody feels that way truly. It's, you know, that it's important data for us. And I've appreciated the time that you've taken to teach us how to read these spreadsheets over the years. All right. Any other business? Okay, Mary Elizabeth needs to coordinate with council members before they leave today. Is that correct? Okay, who will present at the entrance conference on October 25th at 11:30 a.m. This meeting is regarding the audit of the city for fiscal year 2023. And only 3 councilors can be present, or we must subject to the Open Public Meetings Act. So, which is fine. She just needs to know ahead of time so that she can make the announcement. You're not available? Any other council members that will be attending?
What's the date?
October Friday, this Friday, the 25th at 11:30.
It'd only take like 20 minutes at most.
I'm planning to be there.
Okay, Councilmember Sherman.
Williams.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Councilmember Williams, I'm not available.
Okay, so it sounds like we have one.
Do we have a finance chairman listed with the city anymore or?
You.
Me, I'll be there. That was easy.
Okay, so Councilmember Sherman, Councilmember Peterson, who's also the finance
There we go.
chair, finance chair, and myself.
That's 11:30.
Yes, 11:30 a.m. Can,
Send out.
yeah, Mary Elizabeth, can you make sure to send a link to them?
There you go.
A calendar invite? Thank you. Anything else? All right, do we have a motion to conclude? Was that Councilmember Espinosa? Is there a second?
Second.
Please, you.
Councilmember Boyle, second.
We're getting a tussle.
So if there's no objection, the meeting is concluded at 8:49 PM. Wow. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you for the conversations.
I will.
You were?
I'm a CPA.
Oh, are you? Oh, so am I. So,
Who's the new party of it?
Oh, there.
What house?
What
house? Yeah, I mean, they do Home Depot.
Yeah.
Next to the apartment.
Well, you know. Yeah.
I think you can tell you.
yeah, I knew what it was too. I can't remember.
Don't remember why.
You know, the thing about the budget this year is I know all the numbers. It's taken 5 years, but there's, what is there? If you looked at the budget detail, it's like 1,800 lines long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know all those numbers. I
That's amazing.
think so, something like that. Yeah.
Although I kind of laughed.
They mailed 30,000 there.
I don't know. I got $121.
No, you didn't. The people online.
It's revenue.
But we're not expecting any less.
Revenues are negative.
I think it's only acquisition.
It's a credit in accounting.
Oh, okay.
That's how it comes out of that system now, out of the Tyler. I'd have to convert it. I'd have to. Oh, I will. I never even thought of that. I'm so used to it. Negatives are revenue.
Yeah, make sure you.
In accounting, in accounting world, negatives are a credit. So when you go into the bank, you get credits, right? Where you're putting money in, those are negatives. It's a negative to them because they owe you the money.
They have to.
Assets are a positive.
Okay.
Revenues or income is considered part of retained earnings, which is a credit
Yeah, okay.
because it's a draw on resources.
Sure.
That's their.
Thank you.
If you end up with.
So every, yeah, it's crazy. Norman. It's crazy. Plus, I mean, I'm lucky that Sean and Desharee did the payroll. I did it. Well, Mike did. Oh.
The times I get emails from you is kind of like, I'm like, is that like legal? Yeah, yes.
Yeah, right.
I tried this one, so, yeah. It's a bonfire, but now I'm full-time.
Oh.
Yeah. It was March. We thought about doing it. Putting a tent in the middle. Turn 10.
I can't.
We put it in. You guys are shells. That's fine. So they just.
I know, they weren't.
It was fun to work.
Yeah, they're pretty straight there.
Yeah, exactly. I get it. I get it. So-
It's gonna be hard. Yeah, but those one, that one I got over and. It's a very strong thing. Yeah, literally, it's pretty cool to have that. Maybe it's not. I get, I always get that. Which part of town? It's over where like the, it's near the Toyota dealership.
And I'm sure he's remembered. That'd be Westford.
Westford.
Yeah.
And they actually built it building, and I think they're like an anchor business in that. It's some sort of food related, and surrounding the whole thing, they've got power for these things, they've got waste for them, like these food trucks that roll in, and they're just hooked up. And there's gas and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay. Yeah.